one quote that one of my buddies would always say was a win the day mentality. Every single day we'd wake up with the objective to win the day. So whether that be we're getting up, we're crushing the gym, applying to jobs, studying. It was a work hard, play hard mentality. That's definitely what we lived by. It was wonderful.
So as soon as I got into those classes, I'm like, this is gonna set me up to be successful in business. But what I learned very quickly is the whole finance and economics track, it was trying to prepare you to be a contributing employee to a corporate company. Is college a necessity? You can't say yay or nay because it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
Some people really need it to get their shit together. If you're someone that's trying to be successful in business, do you need a college degree? And I will say my opinion on that is no. All right. Welcome back to another episode of Discipline to Win. This is episode 3 with Nick Subich and Nick Frazetta. Today, we're going to touch on a hot topic for our generation for sure today, and really talk about what school tells you and what school doesn't tell you, and all the things around college, and is it important, is it good, is it bad, and really just dive into all the options that kids have nowadays and different journeys, different ways to be successful, and give people some perspective of 2 high school graduates, 2 college graduates. So we bought into, the idea of going to college, and so it's not 2 people that didn't go to college giving you their opinion on it. So 2 college graduates that are giving you the real opinion and our experience with college. Was it good? Was it bad? And all the things around that. So to start off, I guess, we'll start with, in high school for me and Nick, our generation really, from when I know personally from when I was in kindergarten, both my parents, family, and teachers all told me, if you want to be successful in life, you have to go to college.
100%.
Have to get a degree. And I think it's important to define too, what does successful mean? Because that's a big word that it's totally open to interpretation to a lot of people. So in my family and in my surroundings from where I came from, successful meant getting a job that pays $50,000 plus a year. And that's the beginning and the end. Yeah. Because so many people from where I came from, didn't have a degree, which, really limited their options to where getting a job, you were going to go and work a blue collar job and, earn $35,000 to $45,000 a year, and you're going to break your back doing it. So really, and you said the same thing in conversations we've had. To me, the only people I knew that had a college degree and were quote unquote successful to the version of success in my mind were the teachers in school. In my hometown, which is Johnstown, Pennsylvania, really the only jobs that I knew of at the time where you could have a job making 50, 60 grand a year was being a teacher. And in my mind, I kind of looked up to and idolized teachers because I was like, wow, they've got it made. They're making $60K a year. And I know you've said the same thing, that sort of growing up, you thought teachers were almost rich. Yeah. Especially because even in the school district that you came from, teachers made even more than, how much did teachers make in the school district where you come from?
You can make up to over $100,000 a year. So, and you're not working 3 months of the year too.
Yeah, that's true.
And my mom is still a teacher at the high school. So I had a lot of experience with that, and seeing kind of a little bit different from, you came from, I would even call it a low class
poverty
upbringing. I would say I was definitely a step higher than that. The idea of success where I grew up was, you have a job, you make $100,000 a year. Yeah. You live in a nice house, you have a decent car, and you go on vacation once a year. That was the epitome of success. You go to church on Sundays, you have a decent car, you're not paying for your kids to go to school, but you can at least send them to school. Right. You live in a decent house, you have one home, and you go on vacation once a year to the beach, and that was the epitome of success. And yes, teachers definitely fell into that because, I saw it firsthand. It was either you were a teacher or, I would say, very small family style business owner was the other avenue of success, where my dad is a small business owner. Other small business owners, I would call them 5 employees or less,
Yeah,
like type
for sure.
of businesses.
That's like America.
Yeah, and I feel like that's
Yeah.
pretty standard across the board of like middle class America. But that was my vision of success.
Did teachers tell you the same thing?
And it was the same thing.
Like you have
and
to go to college?
it was either college and which I don't, and I want to touch on this too, is it was trade school was a big thing too. There was a lot of kids who did trade school, which that in high school at the time, it was a little bit looked down upon. It was like, oh, well, you can't go to college. Like you have to go learn a trade like carpentry or diesel tech or something like that. But I think that is, in a lot of cases, way more valuable.
Most of those people make more money than the average college graduate.
And I think and from an upside perspective, in terms of those industries of starting a business within those, whether it be electrician. I mean, our buddy who does all of our electricity here, he runs an extremely successful business, like plumbing. I have connections to people who were running crazy plumbing business, crazy carpentry businesses that they've scaled to 50, 100, 200 employees. So those are avenues that people don't look at in the sense of, oh, well, you have to go to college and you have to get a degree from a good school and then go work a corporate job at a big firm, where most of the opportunity, I would say, at least especially starting out, is in those trades a lot of the times.
100%. And there's a lot of people that, like Nick said, to look down on that. I look at those people as extremely bright because they made a decision where I'm not going to go and get in a ton of debt. I'm going to go start making money almost immediately. Yeah. Like a lot of the trades you get paid to go to, like your training and education to learn that trade. Like get paid like starting in like $20s and $30 an hour range. Yeah. So ton of respect for all the people that chose that route. Definitely a smart route, I think, in 2023. Yeah. I think that we're probably in an era of the most saturated amount of college graduates for sure in the history of our country. And that's led to steep competition for, top tier jobs that are the higher paying jobs, in corporate America for people with college degrees, because it's almost become, a social norm of like, hey, this is a must to get a degree. So really, I guess before we get into that, of, what does a degree mean nowadays? What does, college teach you? What does it tell you? Pros and cons of that. I know, just to share my personal story real quick, in the hometown I come from, because it was so ingrained into our souls that you have to get a college degree, that's how all I thought. Yep. And like my whole upbringing, I was like, I have to go to college. By the time I was a freshman in high school, I knew okay, I have to go to college, but how am I going to pay for college? Because obviously I never asked my parents hey, are you going to be able to help me for college? Because I knew that just wasn't in the cards. Yeah. I knew that there were money issues around just living, let alone paying for a post education for me. So I then realized, okay, that's completely out of the question. And I didn't know anybody, literally nobody, to where their parents had the ability to pay for college. So don't want to talk down on my parents. I say that I was lucky because my parents at least cared about me and loved me and wanted me to be successful and wanted me to go to school and checked in on that progress. So that, where I come from, that's a huge win. So extremely grateful for that. But so I knew, okay, I got to get to college, but how do I do it? And in the town where I come from, it was a extremely successful background of, football program at Johnstown was very successful. And I, devoted my time to how do I get to myself to be, the most competitive chance possible of getting a football scholarship to college. And I sort of idolized kids that, had the signing day and, got a scholarship to play in college. So I made it my mission to do that. I was not the most physically gifted person. I got everything. The success I had in athletics was just purely from working harder than anybody else. Never missed a lift, was always the first one there at the weight room, last one to leave the weight room, always stayed after practice and got in extra work, and which turned into more people joining in with me. So that's the only way that I was able to get an athletic scholarship. So I did not get a full ride. I got a Division II scholarship to Lock Haven University, which is a small state school in Pennsylvania, right outside of Penn State, which is where Nick went to, which was a large university. And what Division II scholarships look like is hey, you're getting $2,000 a semester. which obviously people know listening, like that's not a significant amount of money. But at state schools, the tuition isn't very high. So that plus a lot of smaller little $500,000 scholarships here was enough to pay for my first year of college. And quickly after that, I realized, okay, this is not going to be enough to pay for any additional schooling, because when those first year scholarships fall off, I couldn't get enough loan money because I had no credit. My parents had no credit. So I had to join the Army to pay for the rest of school. So that was basically, I guess, how I paid for school, my route for doing that. Nick, do you want to share, before we talk about college, really your route, how you landed at Penn State? What was really your idea? Why did you want to go to college? Things of that nature.
Sure. So I started on a similar path to you, to where I was super into baseball. Our high school baseball team was one of the best teams in the country my junior year.
Yeah, Nick told me all the time that like he literally had like MLB scouts at his
one of my
practices.
Alex Kirilloff is one of my buddies who we played together in high school. He now plays for the Twins, but I mean he went 16 overall in the 2017 MLB draft. So we had scouts at every game, ESPN, MLB Network. It was honestly like I was living out a dream my junior year. It was super cool because we were undefeated regular season. We had the best season in probably Western Pennsylvania baseball history. So that was super cool. Not to really get into that, but I was super devoted to baseball. I loved baseball. Had a really tight group of friends. Again, wasn't the most physically gifted. I was undersized. Arm strength wasn't there, to where I wasn't a Division I player, but I had the intention of going to a Division II or Division III school with the intention of getting a scholarship as well. So I went on that same route, was looking at a couple of small Division III schools to play baseball at. I visited them. I was all about that. And then I grew up going to Penn State games. I had a lot of family that went to Penn State. So I wanted to visit there, and as soon as I stepped foot on campus, I fell in love with it, and I never looked back. And thank God I went there, because it is the best school on the face of this earth. But so going that, I didn't go the athlete route. So and I kind of want to get more into how being an athlete in college was, because I didn't get to experience that, and I didn't have a ton of friends, honestly. That I had some friends at other schools that were athletes in college in different sports, but at Penn State I wasn't really in the athlete crowd. It was more like fraternity and different organizational crowds. So kind of once you transition from high school to college, how did that change from like the team aspect of high school football, like how serious it was, your training regimen, stuff like that? How did that change when you got to a program at Lock Haven?
Yeah, for sure. So I noticed immediately, very different. So, and for the difference that I'm talking about is, like anybody that's played a high school sport, the people that are your teammates you grew up with. Mm-hmm. So like literally like those are your brothers or your sisters, depending on whatever team you're on, and those are people that you were with by circumstance, and you became close. And really, high school sports for the most part, besides the 2 to 3% of people that go to play at the college level, you're playing for each other. You're trying to like win for each other, for your hometown. So you have a lot of purpose there. When you get to college, it is a mosh-tosh of people from every walk of life, people that were well off, people that weren't well off, people middle class, people from way different circumstances than you. So there's a lot of people that you have some similarities with, but there's even more people that I would say are just completely different from you, and it's tough to relate to. To where in high school, you're all in the same situation for the most part, same neighborhood, same environment, same income range, same beliefs, same values. So it's very easy to like bond with. College, I would say very different. When, I walked into the locker room for the first time, like there's just like a couple pockets of, tight-knit groups of, 3 or 4, where I know for me in high school, like you'd walk into the locker room and like, you're cool with like everybody, the whole team. So that would be the biggest difference for me is I looked at it and it might have just been the culture of the team that I walked into also. So it might be different for other people's experiences, but I would say very transactional. Mm-hmm. Like everybody was there because they got a scholarship or they're trying to get a scholarship, and it was just part of what they were setting out as a way to get a college degree. So if I had to sum it up in a word, I would say transactional, to where like guys definitely weren't playing for each other. A lot of individual I would say selfish personalities to where like, hey, like I'm just trying to do me here, get my degree. And, then there's the 1% of people like that they still think that they have a shot at the NFL, which in Division II, like all the power to all you Division II athletes that are trying to make it to the league, like do not quit on your dreams. But like it's an uphill battle, like, for sure.
Extremely hard.
Division II, like unless you're like extremely gifted, or just like an insane work ethic, like everyone knew that there's a 99.9% chance that it was stopping at the end of college, which in high school, like you're playing to try to get recognized. So, and you have hope, but in like Division II college, like most of the guys like are very real, like, hey, like we're here to get a degree, and then it's the end of the road. So yeah, very transactional. I will say, as far as the seriousness of it, it's not transactional for the coaching staff because this is their career.
Yeah.
And their career doesn't stop at the end of the day. They have the ability to go to a D1 school to possibly coach in the NFL. I know some of the coaches at our school coached in like the NFL World League when the NFL had teams in like Europe. So they had already coached at higher levels, and every one of the coaches from my coaching staff at the Division II level, they're all coaching D1 now. So for them, like it is very, very serious because their livelihood depends on it. So I know as a college athlete, from the coaches, the pressure put on you is high because like they need to succeed for them to get to the next level, because obviously, they're not getting rich coaching Division II. They want to get to the D1 or professional level. So like they're placing the emphasis on you, basically like it's the most important thing in the world, because to them it is, but to me it definitely wasn't. So like I initially, and I was dealing with injuries also, getting shoulder surgeries. So like to me, I realized like, okay, like this isn't sustainable for the fact that this isn't enough money for me to successfully graduate college. And like, this isn't worth the toll on my body, because like I knew like I am not going professional. I am not continuing my, athletic career anymore, which is when I made the shift to what is a way that I can 100% pay for school. And it's something that will continue past college, which is why I decided to join the Army, train through college to become an Army officer, paid for my school. And I learned, very young, tons of leadership, developmental skills, how to motivate people, how to get people to accomplish, a shared goal. So that was super valuable for me. As far as like the social element from being on a team, that was positive. Like it's probably very similar to like the fraternity aspect, social wise. Like you do make friends, you do meet people, and it is a good way to broaden your network in college, being on an athletic team. Outside of that, I didn't get any, really many positive outcomes from being on a, collegiate sport. And then at Lock Haven, like our team wasn't good either. So it might be different too. Like if you're winning, I'm sure like, you're feeling a lot more positive side effects from that too.
Yeah.
But so that was, I guess, my experience being a college athlete. There was definitely like, I was forced to like miss class to like go to film. And I'm like, there's really not like, this isn't like working out well. So I guess tell me about like for you, I know like you were heavily involved in your fraternity at Penn State. Give me the pros and cons of really like being in a fraternity at Penn State.
Yeah. I mean, it was a great experience for me. I know some people shit on fraternities, and it's like funny to
and that was me.
It was
I hated fraternities. So like circle back to whenever I met Nick and like we were doing our like dinner interview, and he told me he was on a fraternity. I like almost decided to just stop paying attention at the interview, because my like vision of guys in fraternities was that like they were like assholes, like super conceited, like weren't serious about life. So that was like, that's a lot of external views on fraternities. Give us the real shit on like what's it like to be in a fraternity, especially at a big school.
Yeah. So I mean, even just to go back to the beginning of like Penn State. So like you're going from like a normal high school, like where I was at, to you're stepping foot on a campus with 50,000 people. So like I remember my first day, I throw my backpack on, I'm leaving the freshman dorms, and I hit the street, and legitimately there's 15,000 people like in movement going from class to class. And I'm like, wow, like I was at a small high school, everyone knew who I was, I knew who everyone was, like you're big fish, small pond type of thing. And
now
then
you're nobody.
You step foot on that campus, you're no one. It doesn't even like unless you were Saquon Barkley at the time, like nobody knew who you were. So like it was really different, like going into a place where I didn't know a single person that was even going there. So that was a lot different. I walk into my first class, I'm in a lecture hall with 700 people sitting in the class, and there's one teacher. And
it was like the size of your high school.
Literally the size of the
one
whole high
class,
school.
yeah.
So I'm like, this is a lot different. Like, you're not raising your hand and asking a teacher a question. Like, if you want to ask a question, you're going to office hours. Like,
Yeah.
and you're lucky if you're even getting in front of them at office hours, because it's like an hour and there's 50 people lined up from your class. So way different vibe when you're at like a school like Penn State, to where you're a number and you need to, but in a sense, like, some people can't survive in that. But for me, it was super beneficial because it taught me how to kind of fend for myself. Like, listen, I don't know how to do this. I don't know where I'm at. I have no resources. I need to go figure it out. Like, it put me in a position to do that in a lot of different cases, especially with school. Now, that started to change as I got into like the fraternity and organizational world. So, I found a fraternity that was a lot of like-minded individuals like myself, a lot of people interested in that were majoring in finance, economics. That was kind of the outline of our fraternity. And I like you talked about when you're on a high school team, it's the kids you grew up with.
Yeah.
It's the kids that you were, not that they're not your friends, but you were forced to be with.
That was
them.
your environment.
That was your environment.
Circumstance.
It was circumstantial. When you get to college, and especially when you go to a school where you're a really big school, and me joining a fraternity, I was choosing to join with these kids because they were like-minded individuals. And I heard a quote the one time, there's your day one friends, and then there's your day two friends. These were like the day two friends, to where like these kids now are my core group. Like, we're all driven. We're all going towards a common goal. Like, we're all within our own businesses, but it stemmed from the fraternity lifestyle, to where, yes, it was a work hard, play hard mentality. Like, we definitely got after it. Like, we had a lot of fun, but we were also getting up in the morning, all of us 15 deep, crushing the gym together.
Yeah.
Like, we're trying to eat healthy together. We're doing schoolwork together. Like, everything was done together, to where
you have resources. When you were in an environment where you were alone, you surrounded yourself with like-minded people to basically, you expanded your network, which is valuable.
Yep.
And then 2, you gave yourself additional resources, put yourself in a position to be successful.
Yep. And it was the one quote that one of my buddies would always say was a win the day mentality. Every single day we'd wake up with the objective to win the day. So whether that be we're getting up, we're crushing the gym, we're applying to jobs, then we're going to class, then we're studying some more, then we're going back to the house and getting after it. Like, it was a work hard, play hard mentality. That's definitely what we lived by, and it was wonderful for me, because now I have some of my best friends. I mean, people that I'll be friends with for the rest of my life, stemming from that. And it taught me a lot of good in terms of just being involved in a group that we did a lot of things within the school. Even creating like a discipline aspect, to where like you had to be disciplined to keep up with the lifestyle as well. Because I will say if you are not disciplined, you will get ran over, and you can't survive, because there's some kids that they get too caught up in the scene. They're partying way too much. They're not paying attention to school, and they drop out of school. Yeah. Like, that does happen. That is a real thing. And like, there is a discipline aspect to that of like, we got after, we had a ton of fun, but like, we also did got after it in the classroom too. Yeah. Like, we were extremely disciplined. We were always trying to better each other. Fitness wise, it was, I don't want to say it, like, you couldn't be overweight and be in our fraternity. Like, we would tell you, like, you're getting into the gym, or you just wouldn't be a part of our group, because that was like a screener. Like, if you don't care about yourself and you're not in good shape, like, you're not in our friend group. Like, every single person that's in my friend group to this day is going to the gym every single day. We care about our health. We care about what we eat. Like, that's extremely important. So that was a big screener on the upfront. Like, if you're fat and overweight, you're not in our group, because clearly you don't care about yourself. You're not going to care about us. You're not going to care about our organization. So,
and me and Nick still continue that to this day. Me and Nick snap each other every morning, just to as a accountability, just like, hey, like, you're in the gym.
Yeah, and that's a whole nother topic that we'll get into, is the fitness,
importance of that.
The importance of fitness and the importance of health. But yeah, so overall, it's funny, but like, no cons. There is no cons to being in the fraternity. There's no cons to going to Penn State. It's the best place in the world. Taught me a lot. Taught me how to, again, understand people from different cultures. So many different cultures, so many different backgrounds. You have people who went there who are, in your scenario, that are coming from poverty. You also have literally the sons and daughters of billionaires who are going to that school. They're driving around the school in Aventadors and Rolls Royces and going to class. So like, the dynamic is crazy, like in terms of who you see and who you meet. but it was a lot of good. Now, and I kind of want to pivot also to you. We talked about like the culture aspect and like of college, but in terms of the real material that you learned educationally and how that prepared you for real life, how did that go in your experience?
So just to go over my major, none of this literally, all this literally didn't almost happen because my major started out with criminal justice. And all the people closest to me after like literally like a month of being on that track were like, you will be miserable.
Yeah.
And like, you need to like, just knowing who I am, they were like, you need to change your major to business. So at the college I went to, there was no like, you couldn't major in finance or economics. You had to major in business with a concentration in finance and economics. So that's what I did. So I majored in business with a concentration in finance and economics. And so as soon as I got into those classes, I'm like, okay, like this is gonna set me up to be successful in business. But what I learned very quickly is the whole finance and economics track is trying to prepare you, and I'm interested to see if you have the same opinion of this, Nick. It was trying to prepare you to be a contributing employee to a corporate company. It was basically trying to teach you this is how corporations at the macro level function. So here's macroeconomics. Here is how you evaluate, financial statements and balance sheets, and this is how you, interact at an organization. And it seemed like everything was framed around that. And what I learned very quickly after I left college is those macro corporate finance jobs are not easy to get. Like I sprayed applications because I was always trying to, better myself, get in a better position, even though I was already working full time for a company at this point. But like I sprayed applications at the, the giant corporations. You're not getting a call because they're getting thousands of interviews. Thousands of applicants. So I think that a lot of it was tailored around what only a small percentage of people are going to actually end up doing in their field. And that might have been a microcosm of like, maybe that's just finance, and it might be different in, different, degree tracks. But I would say today running an actual, financial services organization, I use less than 1% of anything that I learned in college. I will say that, what I did learn in college and the positives, like me and Nick talk about all the time, was being able to work with different types of people. Definitely. That's definitely a huge positive in any company or any field that you go into. So that's definitely a positive I took, because the only people I knew how to talk to were people that were poor, literally, coming out of high school. And like Nick said, you go to college then, and you're with people that are rich, you're with people that live normal lives, you're with other people that are poor. So it definitely broadens your horizons and exposes you to being able to communicate and work with and accomplish things with different types of people. And you do that through group projects and stuff like that in college. So you have to be able to work and communicate with different types of people. So that was definitely the plus. The con and the wasted time was, for me, the music classes, the theater classes, the art classes, the sociology, psychology, and maybe I subconsciously picked up on positives from those things that I do use that I don't realize. But if I'm giving my honest, objective opinion, I learned very, very, very little in college of things that I use today. I would say that there's nothing I learned in college that has made me successful. I will also say that my degree has not made me successful either. And I would say that the debt that I took on is not a positive. It doesn't inhibit any part of my life, but it does for some people. Like there's people that have taken on $500,000 in student debt, and like we've met with people that their student loan payments are like 70% of their income, which is why like we sort of, we'll get into our actual real feelings on it after a minute when Nick describes his experience also. But I would say that there's not much I learned in college material-wise that has shaped me or made me successful or has really been a positive in actually running a company, besides like, maybe some info on financial statements and things of that nature. But college, I would say, is based 100% on working for giant organizations and how to be a cog in their machine at those organizations. And then my last opinion is on like the material-wise, always found found it interesting that they offered entrepreneurship classes in college. I don't know if you had those that you were able to take also, but I never took the class because the professor teaching the class had never started to run a company, which I thought was hilarious. But I'll say the material that I experienced in college, and it might have been my university, might have been my degree track, did not prepare me and was not a positive that I've taken and used in business. So what was your experience in your degree track, the material that you were presenting with in college, and like, have you used any of it in business?
Definitely.
And has it made you successful?
I would say it was similar to yours, very, very high level. So I was economics, Bachelor of Science Economics is my degree. So it's like right along that same track that you were on.
The macro level.
Very, very macro level economics. My focus was like, and I don't even know why it was, but it was like labor, like kind of labor focused economics. So
you
like,
probably thought it sounded good.
Yeah, I like and I guess there's like little nuggets I would say from like little classes that I took from everything, but like again maybe 5% from like each class. Like I took some interesting courses on different topics, but 95% of the topics I would say like I don't apply to life now. There maybe is an occasional nugget or two that I pull from classes, but it's really not. It's not something that I use on a day-to-day basis. I would say back to what we were originally talking about, the value that I got from college was all of the communication, was the ability to work with different people, the ability to figure things out, not really mattering what the material was, but the ability to kind of find your own way, fend for yourself, meet people, communicate with people, leverage connections, leverage resources. All of those things were the most positive. So I would say that was the positive for me. From the educational material aspect, probably a con. There just really wasn't, and I don't really know I don't know if there is like something that a professor can teach you about getting into real life. It's like one of those things that I think the most valuable source of information, if you're trying to go into an industry or you're trying to do something, is listen and learn from people who have already done it. Like listen 100%. And learn and read from people who have already done it. Go to a seminar. If you're interested in solar or something, go to a solar seminar. Listen to like people talk that have made 10-figure businesses like doing it. Like
I can tell you I've learned way more about business from listening to successful people's podcasts than I have from a 4-year degree in college, from having a business degree. Like I've probably learned 20x from just podcasts than I have from my actual business curriculum that I learned in college. And again, because you're hearing information, like if you're listening to a podcast from the subject matter expert of someone that's actually done it. In college, they're just teaching you a textbook, and most of the time, it is not someone that's actually done it themselves. All they have ever done is been successful in an academic setting, not in real life where you're getting your teeth kicked in. Is college a necessity? You can't say yay or nay because it's different for everybody. Some people really need it to get their shit together. Like people could be a menace coming out of high school and they need a couple years to like figure things out on their own. And like they might look back on it and say like they absolutely needed that. We both know like, you know, people coming out of high school that even though they were 18 years old mentally, they were like 35 and like would have been able to function completely fine in society without college. And then you got the career fields where, you know, it's, you know, let's say being a nurse or a physical therapist, like obviously you need higher education to be successful in that field. So like that's a necessity 100%. But if we're looking at, if you're someone that's trying to be successful in business, do you need a college degree? And I will say my opinion on that is no. There's other ways to get the people skills, the communication skills, and learning how to win minds and affect change in organizations than college. What's your thoughts?
I would agree, but I would focus on when we say maybe college isn't the best avenue for becoming a successful entrepreneur, business owner. That doesn't mean you don't seek education. Like we seek education and training every single day. You need to, no matter where you're at, and especially where we're at right now, where we're in a building phase and we're on the beginning of our long journey here as entrepreneurs, is education and training from people who have already done it. That's there's so much access, number one, to information nowadays.
For free.
To where like literally anything that you're interested in, you could just type it in on Instagram, TikTok, Google, and you're going to have thousands of resources that come up from people who have already done it, who are extremely successful, and you should listen to those people. Not just one person, you should listen to all the successful people across that industry and try to pick different nuggets. And that's what we do all the time, is we're constantly listening to high-level people. And
think about the things we've executed on. Like, I listened to a podcast about how to do a cost segregation study, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we bought commercial real estate. Why don't we use this? Boom, we did that.
Exactly.
Would have never known about that.
Same thing with sales. Same thing with just operational organizational structure. Same thing with working culture. Like, all of those things you learn from people. Like, if someone is telling you about how to build a successful working culture and they have 2,000 employees and they run a successful business, they probably know what they're talking about. They probably know a little bit.
They've made mistakes.
Yeah, they've made mistakes. They've already done the
100%.
The dumb tax, as we say. They've already paid that for you. So get information from them. Get education. If it's not college, then you need to be studying your ass off with whatever industry or industries that you want to get into and you want to start building a business in or becoming a part of a business in. You need to train and educate yourself from people who are doing it or who have already done it.
Yeah. I will say, like, if we're looking at our organization, I would say, like, our employees, I would say 2/3 have college degrees and a third don't. And I would say that with our company, your ceiling for success is not dictated at all by if you have a degree or not. If you asked any of our employees, if during the interview process, if we even asked about their college degree, they would probably all say no.
Yeah.
We care more about people being willing to learn, people that are positive, people that want to grow, people that, you know, will outwork anyone else. Those are all attributes that people control. Like, those things, you're not like gifted with those things.
Yeah.
You can control. Like, everybody that's listening to this right now can make a decision. I'm going to be positive tomorrow when I go into work. I'm going to go in tomorrow and double my output, and I'm going to go ask whoever I report to, how do I grow? Mm-hmm. Those are 3 things you can do if you want to take the first step to better your life. Like, anyone listening to this can go do that tomorrow. And anyone who, if we're going back to a prior podcast, anyone who is a ego-free entrepreneur is going to take that and be like, I've been waiting for this conversation. Like, thank you. Like, let's get to work together. Yep. And college, like, does not teach you any of those things. Mm-hmm. You could learn them without going to college. So to really say, is it important or not, it's going to depend on the person. It's going to depend on the industry. And it's not a one answer fits all, thing that's going to either change or, not change somebody's life. If I'm looking back and I'm going to say yay or nay, am I glad I went to college? I would say yes for me, because I would have never otherwise ended up becoming an Army officer, which for me, my origin story is a pivotal part to sort of unlock my mind of realizing what potential I have and realizing what is actually possible with the human mind and the human body. So for me, college led me to that. Would have never been able to commission as an Army officer without a degree. It's a requirement. What would you say for you? Are you glad you went to college? Do you regret going to college?
100%. I would say I agree. I would say yes, it was extremely positive for a lot of different aspects of my life. Meeting good groups of people, learning how to fend for yourself, figure things out on your own, learn how to work towards common goals, work with a group of people, honestly establish a lot of discipline too. There was a lot 100%. Of discipline involved that I did not have as an 18-year-old coming out. I skated by in high school with being naturally at a higher level where
neither of us had to study.
I didn't have to study. I didn't have to do any extra work. It just, so I got lazy, very lazy with that. And then I get to college, and when I was at Penn State, I was walking around, every single kid's smart. Like, they're all smarter than you. Like, they're all higher level. They went to private school, or they've been trained tutors, like, especially the kids from overseas. Those kids are on a different level, like, to where you got to step your game up. If you want to play and you want to get into the good jobs like we talked about, or you want to even just be able to survive there, you got to step your game up. So taught me a lot of discipline, brought me around a great group of friends that really helped bring me up and continue to be positive influences to me. So I would say it's a positive to me too. It's definitely, this is not a podcast where we're just going to sit here and shit on college.
Right,
like, there's definitely some positives. But from like an educational standpoint of what we're doing now, 95% of what we've learned is either from mentors or people who
Just
we educate
doing
ourselves
it.
who
Yeah.
just do it. That's the best way.
I would say college basically is producing people to be a widget in someone else's machine. So I would say if you're somebody that truly wants to build something of your own, be a high performance person in an industry, college may not be your best option. And you may be able to reach out to successful people that are looking to mentor somebody, are looking for someone to be like an apprentice, that they could sort of develop and bring along in their organization as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I would say that if you don't know what you want to do in life and you kind of want a trial period, college might be, and you don't have a lot of discipline, college might be a good option for you. But overall, like my assessment of the people that I went to college with and where they're at now in life, college sort of turned them into just average people that are like cogs in a machine, as employees. And I would say that, most large companies, obviously when they have, 20,000 employees, they're not looking at the people that they're hiring and giving them really any opportunity to ever have like when you were hired as an employee, like you had a chance to buy an equity. That's usually not a real possibility at 99% of organizations. Where I think that that's something that we're doing different. To where the people that we do hire, we want them to be a part of our growth. We want them to be along for the ride and participate in a lot of that growth. So I think that's a difference with our company. Obviously, we're going to still hire people with college degrees because it benefits people in a lot of different ways. But for us, not a requirement, not a make or break in someone's career for sure to have that college degree. Besides, it does show that you can complete something that you set out to do, and can accomplish a task or a goal that you had, which was to graduate. Because I don't know what the national graduation rate is if you average out every university, but it's definitely probably around 50 to 60%, I would say. And fact check that number. Could be close, maybe not, but that'd be my guess. I know we were looking at graduation rates the other day. My university, I think, is below 60%. I can't remember if we looked at Penn State or not and what the graduation rate is there. Do you know a lot of people that dropped out of college, didn't finish?
I have a handful of friends that dropped out.
Do you know where they're at in life right now?
Not really. Those are people that I didn't really keep that much connection with. I know kids who got caught up in the scene a little bit and dropped out, and that happened a lot. I would say at Penn State, at any big state school, I feel like that's going to happen. You have kids that maybe they came from a pretty wealthy background. They don't need college to really
their life doesn't depend
on it. And when your life doesn't depend on it, sometimes you can get caught up in the scene. So I knew a lot of kids like that, and they'll be fine. They'll live fine lives and they'll get through life. They're not going to struggle, but obviously wasn't an option for you or me. We had to fit, and the majority of people that's the case is they need to finish. So but that's kind of how it was.
I know if I'm looking at people that I went to high school with, because in college, I lived a totally different college life. I didn't have many friends at all in college because I was my structure was every morning was physical training with the Army at 5 a.m. And going from there, I was going to work a job, then coming back for classes, going back to work. To where I didn't live the college scene life really. So I can't really comment much on that because I really didn't meet many people in college besides people that were either on the football team or also in the Army, which are very microcosms of university. But the people I do know from high school that didn't go to college or went to college and didn't finish, I would say that their overall success and income is not much higher than the people that I went to high school with that I know graduated from college. Because I know a lot of my friends from high school that went to universities went to Robert Morris or a Duquesne or Pitt, where tuition is obviously really high, to where those people are coming out with $200,000 in student loan debt, and the payments on those are $1,500 a month. So even though their income might be higher than someone who's working a trade, if you subtract out that student loan debt, I'd say they're probably not much more successful than somebody who went to, just working for a company, working construction, A lot of those jobs are really high paying. So I would say that if I'm objectively looking at it, I would say college doesn't give you a leg up. If you're taking a high performer with a college degree against a high performer without a college degree, and they have the same attributes, I would say the degree is not going to be the kerosene that gets dumped on the fire that propels them to being a successful individual. I say if you're a high performer, you have the attributes that are important, I think you'll find your way to success with or without that degree. But for me, I'm glad I have it. Again, it's always something for everyone that has one. No one can take it away from you. You set out to accomplish that, and you accomplished it. So I'm glad I went. You're glad you went. It's up to everybody else listening to make that decision on your own if it's right for you or not. But I think it's good for us to put this out there for people if they're evaluating if they want to go or not. I know objectively it is not something that is going to make or break your life after now being around all the people that we're around. If we're looking at people we know that are millionaires, which we know a lot of millionaires, I would say that it's probably 50-50 or even less than 50% of them have college degrees. Yep. So whether you're going to be a millionaire in life or not, I would say ultimately it goes back to discipline. Mm-hmm. And if you're disciplined enough to invest, disciplined enough to save, disciplined enough to invest in yourself and propelling yourself to success, that's going to really set you up. Are you going to be successful? Are you going to be a millionaire? Not that college degree that our generation of influential people tries to get us to, dive all into. Yeah. But other than that, shoot us comments below on what your thoughts are, because we're definitely interested in other people's opinion on this. It's a very controversial topic.
If there's someone in that's coming out of high school or about to come out of high school, share this with them, or somebody even that's looking to go to grad school, or share this with them. Comment down below. Also, any topics that you would want us to cover that are maybe trending now or that are points of interest, let us know, and we'll do a full pod on that. For sure. Because I mean, there's so many different things floating around right now that we can talk about. So yeah, just let us know, and
like and subscribe.
Yep, we'll be back on the next episode.
All right.